Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. What's up, Google? I have a box. I put something in this box earlier. Just take note of the box. We see the box? Yeah. What's in the box? What's your name, dude in hat?
Josh.
Josh. Do we know each other?
We don't know each other.
Okay, good. Point to someone you also don't know. Networking. Who do we got? What's your name?
My name is also Josh.
Thank you. Good night. Good night. Come on. What are the odds of that? 2 Joshes? Josh, can you point to another Josh? No, point to someone who definitely is not a Josh. Who?
Guy with the beard.
Guy with the beard. You have to be more specific.
The gray sweatshirt.
What's your name?
Bob.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, you couldn't have written that. I mean, Bob is so not a Josh. Bob, do we know each other?
No.
Okay, good. That was fair and random. Bob, do you remember your first kiss?
Yep.
Who was it?
Emily Curbstat.
You gave me her last name? With a K, Curbstat with a K or a C?
Okay.
Emily K. We'll just call her Emily K to protect her privacy, even though you just said it.
Yeah.
Privacy, I mean, come on. Who am I talking to? Listen, Bob, when was the last time you saw Emily K? How long has it been? Since the kiss?
Since the kiss.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how long has that been?
Like 15, 16 years.
Oh, adorable. I like to open a magic show. You got to blow people's minds. You got to let them know that you're legit. You know, they're about to see some witchcraft stuff. So you haven't seen this, you haven't talked to Emily for 15, 16 years. Yet today, in New York City, on stage at Google, I brought her here. Please welcome Emily Curbstat. Now that would have been good. That would have been good. That would have been awkward for Bob. I could have done it. Come on, I could have done it. You could have helped me find her. But I didn't want to make it weird. That's why I brought the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? Emily's head. That's what's in the box. No. There's I put a prediction in the box before our chat today, a sheet of paper. On that sheet of paper, I wrote one name, and that name happens to be Emily K.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm gonna give that to Bob as a souvenir. Wow, 6 seconds. I just counted in my head. So I pulled the sheet of paper out, and it was 6 seconds from that point of what I call Google wonder, okay? And that's when you're in a room at Google and everyone's kind of like, wait, what? Right? But it was very brief, you know, because we're in a smart room, and at 6.5 seconds, people started snapping out of it like, all right, let's figure this crap out. Like people try to figure out magic, and I know you know this, right? Because when they try to figure out magic, they go to you. And they're like, how does he pull the name out of the box? Where does Emily Curbstat live? I miss her. You know, so, but people act like they don't try to figure out magic. But I know after shows, there's conversations. How do you think he did that? No one invites me to be in those conversations. I could be very helpful, but let's just have the conversation right now. Bob, people must think that you're part of the show, right? That it's an elaborate scheme between the Joshes and the Bobs to land on you. I don't know you.
I don't know.
People think, oh, he's got like a folder of every first name and initial, Emily K. You know, everyone's kissed an Emily K, likely, right? Some people think, oh, it's like high tech. He's got like a wireless Bluetooth printer in the box or something, and he's got like some, person hidden somewhere. Is that what you think? What's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan? Okay, well, Ryan, I hate to show you this, but that's exactly how it works. There's a wireless printer in the box. Damn it. Here, yeah, congratulations. You just ruined Christmas. Thanks, Ryan. Magic is easy. Listen, it's 2020. I don't care anymore. You can get me drunk. Be like, what's the secret to magic? Amazon Prime. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not here to, $149, you can make anything Bob says come out of a box. It's because we live in an amazing era, right? 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. There were no tiny printers. You had to use a bigger box, put a small child in the box. The kid would write it by hand. It was illegal. It was not. Does it feel good to know that you were right?
Kind of.
Yeah, okay, well, you're a sick person. You're a sick person. Most people think they want to know, but then when they know, they realize that they didn't want to know. But not you. That's okay. But that's the thing, like you can't, once you know, you can't unknow, right? Because you don't know you don't want to know until you know. So that's why I thought, even though we're at Google, the epicenter of curiosity and knowledge and, quenching people's thirst for how, which sucks for me. But even though we're here, I thought we could give it just one like a little apple Z, a chance to undo it. We can make it magic again. We can live the rest of the hour in Google wonder. Truly, would you like that?
That'd be great.
Give me an amen.
Amen.
All right, let's make it magic again. Welcome to the talk. Megan. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Justin.
Megan is here. Let me get rid of this. Here, a souvenir.
Okay,
You can take it.
I'm gonna start with a softball.
I just gave away one of your tables. I hope that's okay. He works here. He looks like he works here.
All right, so let's just clear this up.
What, how did I do that?
Are,
All right,
are you a
listen.
wizard?
I'm not a wizard.
Not
no.
a wizard. Okay.
That's not a softball. That's
That's
pretty
not a
big. If
softball?
I said yes, it all crumbled
The whole
down.
talk would be about. Okay, so I love the name Magic for Humans. You say that you're using magic to sort of master the art of being human. What have you learned about being human?
Oh, God, I think I've confused myself more than I've learned anything. I mean, the show, if you haven't seen it, we explore a different human theme every episode. And I feel like, I guess to answer your question, not to be a joke, but what I've learned is that we are much more alike than we are different humans. And I feel like we often forget that because a lot of comedy comes from like, us and them, and laughing at another thing's expense or making fun of the way people do things. And I think what I've learned, especially just since magic is kind of a universal art form in that it doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, kind of even what age you are, you can kind of appreciate and interpret a thing. You might react differently, but you can, it impacts you. And so it's like a nice common denominator that I can kind of intersperse myself in different demographics of humans and find that we're all just kind of the same. We're all clueless in the end.
You are human.
I am human.
Okay.
Were you wondering if it was the title was me suggesting that I am performing magic for those humans? Magic for those humans.
It was a thought.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. Tell us a little bit about your origin story. On the show, you do show clips of yourself as a young kid doing magic. And I think, it's one thing to realize you love magic. When did you realize you really had a talent for it, though?
That's a good question. First off, thankful that my dad was like one of those early adopters of the VHS camera. Like in '88, he's the dude, with the thing, and when it was a shoulder strap, you had to have like a whole satchel. Remember in '88? And I didn't start doing magic till I was like 12 because I broke my arms while riding my bike. I was wearing rollerblades. I was riding my bike while wearing rollerblades. Long story, don't do it. And my doctor recommended I learn card tricks as physical therapy, and that's how I got into it. And I think it wasn't until maybe a year of doing magic lessons, because I took classes with a junior high school buddy of mine. It was me and Jono, my buddy Jono. And it was like after a year I realized like, wow, Jono's really not getting it. And it wasn't that, it's just like magic, it's you either have the attention span to like, work at your hand, making your hands do a thing that kind of feels weird long enough. That doesn't sound right. You have the attention span to work at learning a trick, that feels awkward because magic, it's hard. And he just kind of didn't really care as much, and he moved on to other things, and he's an amazing artist now. But I realized like, oh wow, I kind of like this, and people seem to like it. I think it's the first time you do a trick for your parent, and they don't know how you did it, and you're like, because it's a weird paradigm shift when you can do something that your parent, who's taught you everything, doesn't know how to do.
Was it a good trick you did for them?
No, it wasn't even good. I think my dad's an idiot. It was like a vanishing salt shaker trick where you kind of drop it into your lap. Now he knows how it works.
You just blew it.
Now I know. Yeah, sorry. Spoiler.
Don't watch this, Dad.
Yeah.
So I think one thing you probably get asked a lot is it's a different format doing this on TV than it is doing it for a live audience.
Yeah.
A lot of people question camera tricks, what's going on here, and you do try to debunk that a little bit. But what have you found are sort of the biggest differences between doing this TV show and performing for a live audience?
I think doing magic on TV, I think, is much harder than doing magic for a live audience, just because I think you have, when you're here in person, you're holding a printer made of paper, like you kind of get, you don't for a second get distracted by, is this really happening? Like, it's happening, unless unless someone's on acid and they don't know if what's happening is happening. But for the most part, you can trust your eyes, so you really get to be present. But magic on TV, like attention spans are diminished. There's that skepticism, so you have to like try to use uncut shots as much as possible, but you have to balance it because you use a lot of uncut shots. It's like this show's an hour long and it's boring, you know? Tim and Eric are my co-EPs, so Tim and Eric's editing style is insane and frenetic, so I had to kind of like find a way to meet in the middle where we can make it funny and use the editing as a comedic tool, but also not make people think we're using editing as a magic tool to the best that we can.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have certain people who you ask to sort of do real reactions versus sort of a fake
Yeah.
reaction. and
We
so-
do a little thing. Yeah, because there's a lot of people who I think in our digital age, if you're here live and a trick fools you, you're just like, wow, that's I'm fun, mind blown. But when you're watching on TV, if a trick fools you, a lot of people just immediately go to, well, it must all be fake, as opposed to it's a good trick, So we kind of tried to just at least be a little tongue-in-cheek. I had a bunch of people pretend to be amazed at non-magic that was happening at all. I had a dude in green spandex, and I was trying to make him float me. It was comical. And then real magic happens, and you can kind of A/B their
Real
reactions.
magic.
Real magic.
Yeah.
Well, when I say real magic, real fake magic. Real illusion magic. There needs to be a better word for when magic is actually happening. What do you got? That's the look. How about that look? It's that look.
It's that look.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about the show is that you do go to these subcultures. So, for instance, you go to Santa school. You go to something called LARPers. I didn't know what that was.
What? She doesn't know what LARPing is? Where are my LARPers
Oh,
at?
these people probably know what LARPers are.
Any LARPers? No LARPers here? You kind of went. Come on.
My favorite thing was actually when you did the magic for the animals. I mean,
Oh,
that really
that was
touched
fun.
me. I love animals.
They were not that into it.
That one bird seemed kind of like.
Kind of into it.
Yeah,
It was
having a
on
good
to me.
time.
LARPing is live action role play, by the way. It's, yeah. Just didn't want to leave people wondering, well, what is LARPing?
They were all Googling. So, how do you find these subcultures, and what do you think that adds to the show? Like when you go and you're actually sort of getting into their world a little bit, like doing presents for the Santa people, or.
Well, I have an amazing team of really great comedy writers and great magicians. We kind of all collab, and I try to find people who I think are really funny but know nothing about magic, so they're not like their brainstorming isn't restrained by what they think they can do or not. So they'll pitch ridiculous things. How about you like levitate over a Santa sack and you change his beard color a bunch of times. It's like okay, or tone it in. But a magician would never pitch random stuff like that because they're kind of thinking, how would I do this? So you get these interesting group of people who you have to kind of do a lot of explaining. You have to explain to magicians what's funny and explain to comedians what's magic, and that's fun. And I think a lot of good stuff comes out of that friction. And I think we all kind of get together and just what's something that you just heard of that's weird that you want to know more about? What's an interesting thing that humans do either for fun or for work or for play that is just unusual, like what's not low-hanging fruit, like LARPing is not a new thing, but like we did puppy play season 1, people who dress up as puppies and play, which was unusual, and the parents did not like that. The parents of young viewers who thought it was a kids show up until that episode. Who knew? I didn't know. And but stuff that I think that showcases something about humanity, and then I like to infiltrate that, and I tend to, get enthusiastic about what they get enthusiastic about, and try to write a trick that tells a story that caters to them. Yeah.
It's fun for me because I get to learn about all of these things like.
It's like infotainment.
Yeah, it's infotainment.
So Santas have to learn somewhere. They have to get certified somewhere.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Not at the mall. It doesn't happen.
Not at the mall. There's a real Santa school. They do it in the summer so that it doesn't interfere with their peak months,
Obviously, yeah.
right? Many of them are Uber drivers off season, which is probably exactly what you thought. They did.
I actually have a follow-up question to what you said. You talked about the fact that you have a team, and so
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. How big a team does it take to do these things? So you don't act in isolation. I
Right.
think you're just it's all
I
you.
know,
but-
that's like the illusion. Like he's
Yeah.
just
And then they get
no
to know
preparation. He
what's
just
going
leaves
on.
the house
Yeah.
and stuff happens. There's like we do a writer's room, kind of just like you would get together to write a comedy show or write anything. Where we're just in a room for 2 or 3 months, just putting cards on the board, good ideas, bad ideas, pitches of like just people, places, things, and then there's a second layer where we go through and it's just like, okay, what would you do? What's funny? What hasn't been done? You know, and that's that whole process. And then a different team comes in. Obviously, the producers who figure out the locations and, you know, how do we find a Santa instructor? All these kind of little the odds and ends. But the magic team, you know, once we've written the tricks we want to do, we haven't figured out how we're going to do them. So it's a matter of about 2 months of just, you know, me and a bunch of fellow magic nerds in kind of a grungy garage space, just like arts and crafts galore. And it's a lot of trial and error, but it's a blast, like, when it works.
And are a lot of those tricks sort of based on fundamentals of magic? Do you find that they're sort of iterations, or that you're really starting sort of from scratch?
I mean, sometimes you'll come up with a method or like a technique that's like, wow, this is like diabolical, you know? And often those are like total accidents where just, you know. But for the most part, they're all based on like really, really old, sometimes like centuries old techniques, you know? Just the old stuff that you dress up into a new context and you kind of make it, you know, take what looks like a magic prop, you know, table with dragons painted on it maybe 100 years ago and just try to make it look normal, you know? And it then feels new and organic and it's fun. I love when a trick that is based on something super old blows people's minds. Season 1, season 1, I did a trick where it was like about minimalism, about having everything you need in your backpack. And someone was like, oh, I could never live without my wife. You know, he was trying to like suck up to his wife. He was probably viewing eventually. He was smart. And I opened my backpack and pulled out my wife. And then, you know, people on Reddit are like, it's CGI, no way. But it's literally like one of the oldest tricks in magic. So I was simultaneously irritated when people think like that I'm taking the easy way, but it's kind of gratifying when you can pull out an old, you know, dusty, however I did it, trick that, you know, maybe Houdini would have even used on stage and use it in 2019. It's nice.
Yeah, and make it fresh.
Make it fresh.
I love that. Talking about fresh, I think something that you do that's recurring through the show is you have a couple segments. So one is trick questions, and one is magic for Susans. Even Susan Sarandon did the show, which was really cool. And I know you might not know this, but Lena Dunham actually has a hashtag called Yes All Susans, which I think she did for her mother, who was a Susan.
Wow.
So I didn't know, what is your relationship to Susan? Like, who is Susan? Why Susan? I mean, I love it, and it's great that you can always find a Susan. Do we have Susans here? Is there any Susan here? No.
Google does not hire Susans.
Only Josh isn't.
Susans are very unique characters. Susans pay with a check. They ask to speak to the manager. Susans are unique. Magic for Susans, like, we wanted to do these little interstitial things just to have short palate cleansers, you know, between longer segments. And I think it was one of the early cards on the board where my head writer just pitched Magic for Susans because it kind of rhymes with humans. And we were like, yeah, put it up. We'll get something better eventually. And we just never got something better. And then we just were like, well, let's start finding Susans. And, you know, on Craigslist, Susans will come wherever you need them to come for like a free lunch. You know, a lot of Susans have time on their hands. And we found that there's like some common thread about how Susans like are. Susans just are kind of, I don't know, you don't meet a lot of young Susans. There's very rarely an under 30 Susan. Almost, in fact, never.
Do you look for under 30 Susans?
No, I think I mean, we did look. We just looked for Susans, but we found none under 30.
There were specific Susans.
But there's something about just kind of like these older, wiser Susans, and they kind of don't blow smoke up your ass. If they're not impressed, they'll tell you. They kind of don't care. If it's good, they'll react. And which means to me, if you can impress a Susan, you've done something with your life. And Susan Sarandon was like the golden goose.
Yeah.
Like I put her on I made her my desktop wallpaper on my laptop at the beginning of season 2 as like a vision board. I was like, we will get Susan Sarandon somehow. And it turns out her son's a fan of the show. And he was like, I'm going to have my mom come do the show. She had no clue what she was doing there. And still doesn't have any clue, I think. Yeah.
You don't want somebody who has a clue. I mean.
I just don't know if she even knew I was a magician before she came. She just came because she loves her son.
Aww,
and that's nice.
That is nice. So you had something happen last season. You had a meme go viral.
Yeah.
Where you kind of did this sort of, well.
When I was a kid, I said I really want to have a meme go viral one day. And I was 8. I remember thinking back,
Did you expect
there
that?
were no memes when I was a kid.
Should we tell everyone what the meme is? And
Oh yeah,
all do
well,
the meme?
I convinced 2 dudes that they were invisible, kind of using a little flash mob thing, where they're not actually invisible. I do kind of the vanishing person trick, but framed like I'm making this guy invisible, and then I put the cloth over this guy who's not in on it, but everyone who's gathered in this park is already been prepped to act like this dude just turned invisible, whip it away, and they're freaking out. That combined with the fact that he just saw a dude vanish, he, all the evidence lines up. He thinks he's invisible. He roams around, and it was the greatest day of my life. Okay, and then what that became was a bunch of parents and older siblings punking their little brothers and sisters or children and making them think they're invisible, because it was hard to convince an adult they're invisible. It's much easier to convince a child they're invisible when the person they trust most in the world acts like they can't see them. And that turned out to be internet gold.
It's really fun to do with your boss if you get your team in on it. Just a little.
Did you do that?
I'm going to.
Is your boss here right, is your boss here right now?
Might be. See? Perfect.
I can see him.
Okay, so you use a lot of technology in your tricks, which is awesome. We like technology here. In
Really?
fact, sometimes.
Yes.
In one segment, you actually are at home with your baby Jackson, and you have a robot go do your tricks for you, which is great.
A human robot.
A human robot, but
Yeah.
it's still great outsourcing. I loved
Thank
that.
you.
And so is that like the next frontier? You can maybe just have these robots going around. You can do magic in multiple places. Like, how is technology? I mean, you use it a lot in the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I use it a lot, like as the plot, the premise, the story. But using technology to like actually pull off a trick is I try to avoid as much as possible, because you guys know technology fails a lot, and it seems like these old-fashioned secret methods, strings, magnets, wax. I've already said too much. That's how magic works. Those are more reliable. So, but in researching like segments for the show, we came across these human Ubers, they were called, were people who will, if you can't go attend a meeting, they will wear an iPad on their face, and you will FaceTime or live feed your face to their face, so they're a human avatar for you, okay? And a lot of these clips we found were in Japan, because they're ahead of the curve here with this, so it was like a lot of human Ubering. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to, listen, I'm a new dad. I've got this little kid, and you're kind of pulled in these different directions. You can't be 2 places at once, or can you? So I sent this guy out to do a night of street magic for me while I babysat my guy. And people were as amazed, if not more amazed, than they would be when I was actually there, which made me wonder if I don't know. I was like half offended. I was like, wow, they're really loving this, and I'm not even there. What am I doing wrong? It was interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I loved that, and I thought about maybe I
you.
could come to work that way too, and
You should.
video.
None of us should leave the house ever again.
I agree. So you're a new dad. We just talked about that.
Yes.
At one, you have an episode with your baby.
Yes.
And I'm sure he likes magic, and so he does not like magic.
He doesn't know what it is.
Do you like when he cries? Do you make him disappear?
Megan, that is illegal. that you should know that. That's frowned upon.
I don't know the law.
Magic has
Illegal and
magic has no, like, it doesn't, he's 13 months, so, I take a ball, it disappears, and he's just like, well, I need to find another ball. Like, he just looks elsewhere. So,
That's kind of like the animals.
exactly like the animals. Exactly. Wow. See?
See?
Baby humans are animals.
Yeah.
Baby humans are adult animals.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. Or should I be offended that you called my child an animal? I don't know.
He'll grow out of it.
He'll grow out of it. But, I don't know if he'll be glad his dad's a magician or if he will get bullied because his dad's a magician. So I'm trying to, make magic something he can see a trick, but I'm not going to force anything upon you. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to be that guy.
Well, it's very cute. You do a great job with him, and I'm sure he's going to love it. So
Thank you.
Don't worry. So I think a big part of the show, and you mentioned this before, is you have a really good sense of humor, obviously. A lot of what you do is comical and comedy. how hard is it to do both magic and you have to do comedy? It seems like you have to do two things. Like comedians only have to do one, and some magicians only have to do one, and you have to do two.
Yeah, right? It's not
You
fair.
should get paid double.
This is not fair.
Yeah.
Like when I was starting out, I would do very serious magic. You know,
Okay.
like Lance Burton was my hero, so I would wear a tuxedo and make birds appear. You know, I was like 14. I owned 14 years old, and I owned 12 doves that I would like travel around to magic competitions. You know, I was good at it, but I just felt like I don't know, like when something goes wrong and you're being kind of serious and you have this bravado, like you just look like an idiot. Like when something goes wrong, you can tell something went wrong because you know the veneer cracks. But when you're like Harry Anderson was my hero as a kid. He used to be a magician. He was the star of Night Court, everyone's favorite show, I'm sure. Early 90s Night Court. He was Harry T. Stone. But he was just a great comedy magician whose style like Mac King, Penn and Teller, all these guys. I just was like, I like that because you don't, and Amazing Jonathan, especially because you don't know if a trick works and it's funny, great. But if a trick is funny and it doesn't work, it's funny for different reasons. But at least they know, like they don't know where something is going to go. You don't know, like with the printer thing, it's like, should we know this? Should we not? Is this the truth? Like, I don't know. It's a little more exciting to me. And, I don't want to be all goth. That wasn't for me, the serious goth magicians. You know who I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
It just wasn't my style, yeah.
Fair enough.
So, but it is hard because you have to obviously pull off the magic part, like when I'm working out a new trick, I'll have to make sure to get that part down. But then the jokes, and like for me, that's just as important, like that what you're doing is funny or about something, I don't want to just do a trick, for magic's sake, because then it's like, you're just missing an opportunity to have a little weight to what you're doing. Yeah.
Speaking of funny and non-funny magicians, have you heard from any magicians? I mean, this is one of the first magic forays on Netflix, and maybe even in terms of a series on TV. Have you gotten feedback from other magicians? I know you hang out at the Magic Castle. Like, what's that been like?
Magicians have been really, really supportive. I mean, I've got a great team of magicians who work on the show, but then I think like the magic community, and the comedy community, magic community, like the kind of the hacky go-to is that like everyone hates one another and everyone's like resenting other people's success. But I find that's not true. I feel like magicians like when someone is kind of doing their own thing, but also like hopefully showcasing magic in a good light because I feel like it helps everybody. A lot of magicians got jealous when David Blaine's special first came out because they're like, he's just doing small tricks. I can do that. I'm jealous. But really, like he kind of changed the perception of magic and did everybody, I think, a favor in making magic cool again. Whatever that means. So I think magicians have been really incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
And comics as well. I kind of like straddling the line between those two communities.
That's awesome. It was fun that you got picked up for a second season. I'm sure that felt good.
When does this air, by the way?
We've already done the second season.
No, this right now, what we're doing right now.
Maybe in a couple weeks.
Okay, good, because season 3, we got picked up for season 3, comes out in May.
Yay! That's helpful for my next question. Good context. So you obviously had to evolve season 2 from season 1, and now you're going to have to evolve it again.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, you obviously keep certain things consistent, but how hard this is to keep doing, keep churning out, keep making new tricks, and that's really quick. You had season 2 in December, and now you're going to have season 3
in May.
May.
Right. Well, what we did is we shot them both back to back.
Oh.
Sneaky.
Magic.
So like it was a very long year of doing all that.
Okay.
So while we were like editing season 2, I was out shooting season 3, so it was kind of multitasking. But because you kind of want to deliver, people come back because they want that flavor, like, give me what I am here for, but also don't just give me that. You got to surprise me still. So it's kind of like you have to serve 2 different goals. So, we still found more Susans, of course. And
shortage.
Like season 2, I think got really autobiographical and, emotional at times. And I think compared to season 1, and season 3 is kind of like right in the middle where it's like, we're going to take it back a little bit here. You're not going to cry every episode unless, unless you get triggered by something that I couldn't have predicted. I don't know.
Like LARPers.
Like LARPers. Maybe your first kiss was, I don't know, maybe at a LARP, and you never saw them again, and it's really triggering for you. But we did, like I'd always wanted to go do magic at a nudist colony. Because like as a magician, and I've had these nightmares, because we do a fear episode in season 3, and you always have these nightmares of being introduced, like when you're like, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Willman, and not just like not having my props, but also just not having any clothes on. So like as a magician, you know, your pockets, you kind of need to know where everything is, and it's a nightmare to have nothing.
Yeah.
So in the episode, I kind of faced all my fears, and that was one of them. So we went to a nudist colony, and I did magic naked for naked people. Because you can't just go do magic naked on the streets. They have to be naked as well.
Is there a naked Susan?
There's
No.
Susans are never nude.
Never nude.
Never nude.
Speaking of fears, do you ever, you probably at this point, I mean, everything is so well executed, you probably don't have too many screw-ups. But have you ever had a screw-up, and do you ever have fear, like, still that could happen?
Yes, I have screw-ups a lot. Like, well, when I'm on stage, I try to minimize the screw-ups because there's no way to finagle out of them. You know, obviously, if you're out filming something in the world and just a whole bit the way you thought it was going to go, it just tanks. You're just like, okay, well, I guess we will
Never see those
no one
people
will ever
again.
see that. You know, like, because you know, you kind of have to take chances and do stuff that may or may not work, and also
Okay.
you have limited time to shoot a bit when you're out in the world, and sometimes you'll do something for somebody, and the trick will go great and it looks amazing, but their reaction sucks, or they were looking away, and you're kind of like, you have to lose the whole thing. Sometimes their reaction's amazing, but when you watch the trick back, you're like, you kind of can see how it worked there. They didn't, but you can as the viewer, so you scrap that whole thing. So there's a lot of variables. But for the most part, if something doesn't work, that's when kind of the improv comes in, and you try to just make it look like it was all part of the show. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to invite people up for questions now, too. So if you want to start lining up, that would be awesome. But I'm going to ask you a question before we do that. So you've performed for a lot of famous people. We mentioned you performed for the Obamas.
I love that you were like that. You performed at the White House, Obama administration.
Yeah, Obama administration. We wanted you to have a good time here. You've obviously performed for Susan Sarandon and a lot of celebrities. Like, does that make you more nervous? Is that more fun? Like, what can you tell us about a time that sort of like?
Well, performing at the White House was the most nervous I'd ever been.
Really?
The most.
I thought this was the most nervous you'd ever been.
This is pretty. I feel like I'm in friendly. Like there's love in the room here. Not that there wasn't love there, but you know, like there's so much like rigid security, obviously.
Malia.
No. She's so rigid. It was for a Halloween party at the White House, so it was like military family, White House staff, so everyone's in a costume, which kind of helps put you at ease. Obama was not in a costume. He was in a fleece. He was he was dressed as the president in a fleece. But you know, just like you're doing your thing here, I'm doing my thing, and he's like, you know, he's where you are, and he was heckling, like nice heckling, like, how did he do that? You know, like trying to like help. So I couldn't forget that he was there. Like normally I'd just be like, just a normal show, but it's like he's you know, razzing me the whole time. So,
and if it's the president, do you feel obliged to answer when he's like, how do you do that? Wait, I gotta tell him.
Yeah, I did not answer.
You didn't answer.
Yeah, I didn't get shaken down at the end. It was all good.
Security.
Yeah, he was very sweet.
Okay.
I often find, like, if if I'm nervous to meet somebody, you know, it's more awkward to like, hey, how's it going? Have a conversation here than it is to have them be in the audience, and then on stage you kind of are in more control and you can kind of zone out, you know, the fact that I'm a huge fan, you know, and just kind of do what you do. That makes it easier to meet very impressive people.
Very cool. Andrew.
You are well lit over there. Wow.
Yeah, congrats on the 3rd season.
Thanks, man.
Misdirection. I know, like a lot of, obviously, I'm not a magician myself, but I imagine a lot of it is about controlling the audience and controlling, you know, where people look and where their attention is focused. I wonder whether that's much easier to do in person than to do through a camera, because I guess you have to kind of imagine whether you're controlling the viewer's attention in the right kind of way, and how you get any sense whether you're doing that.
Wow, that's a good question. It is easier to misdirect live. You know, I think because if you just think about, you know, if you're watching Magic for Humans like on a what do they call the huge screen that comes all the way around? Or even if you're
IMAX.
IMAX. On an IMAX, you can kind of look over here, see one thing, and over there. But that's kind of similar to how it would be live versus when you're watching on your laptop, you can see the whole frame. So live, if you're kind of watching you kind of have to pick one place to watch. But when you're watching on a screen or even home on your TV, you kind of have the whole, you can kind of take in the whole picture, and also you can pause and go frame by frame backwards. So it's much harder to misdirect on TV. So you kind of have to use different magic techniques to accomplish the same tricks. Like as we're coming up with routines for the show and kind of come up with the methods, like a lot of times it's like, okay, no, that method would be great, but that would only work live, or that method would be great for TV, but would not be good live. There's a lot of, that's all I can say about that. But that's, it's a good question. It is a weird conundrum, yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, Justin.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for making the show. You're my family's favorite celebrity. We watch it.
Oh, wow.
We watch you every holiday, and so thanks.
Thank you.
My question is, what is it like? How'd you get hooked up with Tim and Eric, and what's it like working with them? And does Tim, is he ever not sarcastic, or is he a normal person?
Yeah, so I've always been a huge Tim and Eric fan. Are you familiar with Tim and Eric? Yeah. There were times where watching Awesome Show and Steve Brule, I couldn't remember ever laughing harder at anything, So their producing partner's name is Dave Kneebone, their company Absolutely Productions, who happens to be an amateur magician and who I met through the Magic Castle, and we just started talking about maybe doing a show together, and we did a pilot for Comedy Central that didn't get picked up, but we were like, that was fun, I think we're onto something. So it was I kind of backdoored into the production company in that this show is maybe the least Tim and Eric of all the Abso shows, but the same editors and producers, so it kind of still has that flair. Seeing those guys around the office is so surreal because they are alarmingly normal. Tim especially, it's just I always think he's making a joke. It's hey man, how you doing? And I'm excited, oh, he's gonna drop some Heidecker on me right now, and then it's oh no, he's just being nice, So he's alarmingly normal and enjoys a good Keurig in the morning and a Danish, and then he's off on his way. Yeah, I'm still nervous and kind of a little starstruck by them, even though I see them around the office, going to the bathroom, they're peeing, I'm I'll go use the sink. I'm I don't know, I'm awkward around them, yeah. But they're lovely.
Oh.
They're fans of the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, they should be fans.
They should be fans of the show. They make
Justin,
money.
My name's Jenna.
Hi, Jenna.
I have a comment and a question for you. The first being, I'm not sure if you're an Arrested Development fan, but Joe Bluth is a magician.
Yes.
And he talks a lot about the difference between a trick and an illusion. And so I just thought that was something that was interesting that you guys commented on today. Not sure if you want to start talking about it more as an illusion than a trick. But that was
Illusions, Megan.
But my real question is, clearly you use comedy and you have the surprise and wow factor in your magic. Do you prefer getting a laugh or a wow?
That's a great question. I think because growing up, I was so, all my admiration was for people like Steve Martin, Johnny Carson, and then, Jay Leno. I studied Jay Leno. I was I want to be the host of The Tonight Show. And Mitch Hedberg, all these guys, I so badly just wanted to be funny while I was also, yeah, I'm a magician, I'm working hard on that. But man, solving the how do you, the science of crafting a joke that just makes a whole room of people laugh. I was so obsessed with that. So I think I still, I get a lot of gratification from a laugh, And, I get greedy. I want to have the laugh and the wow. Obviously, if I'm a magician, I have to deliver on the wow. But if I can get a dozen laughs on the way to the wow, it feels really, really
You're an overachiever.
I'm trying, yeah. But just being able to, kind of be accepted into the comedy world is I don't know, very gratifying and surreal and kind of feels nice. The difference between tricks and illusions and magic is, I don't know, I would never call myself an illusionist, even though I guess by definition, am I someone who does illusions? Yes. This is not really happening, but it looks like it is. But anyone who calls himself an illusionist, I feel just should be punched in the face. It just seems so pompous. You can call me a magician or an illusionist, I don't care. But I will call myself a magician. Something about illusionist just has a connotation like, I don't know, maybe it's just the word, illusion. You know, it's begging for that.
Is that those goth magicians we were talking about before?
I don't know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, Copperfield, I mean, someone who's doing like big old crazy stuff, yeah, I mean, if you own an island, you can call yourself an illusionist. Copperfield owns an island. Imagine the taxes he must
Has
have to
Netflix
pay.
gotten you an island yet?
No,
No.
nothing.
Nothing. How about an elephant? No.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, we'll
Nothing.
work on that for season 4.
Please.
Hey, thanks for being here today. So as a comedy writer, I actually have I find like this mixed writer's room that you have really interesting. So I'm curious if a comedian has ever pitched an idea that wasn't physically feasible, or if conversely, a magician has pitched an idea that wasn't funny.
Oh man, that's like what happens most of the time. Most of the time is both of those, is unfeasible things. But let me think of an example. Oh gosh, I mean, so many unfeasible things. But there's always like a kernel of if you distill it down, like there's this where you're coming from though is an interesting thing. So for example. As a new dad, I'm fascinated with my wife's ability to breastfeed. I want to breastfeed, so I was like, I'm going to go into a coffee shop and this is weird out of context, but we did a hidden camera thing. It's like, you just got to, they're out of milk. What do you want? Almond milk? Here, I'm going to pop some almonds, chew them up, unzip my sweatshirt, and I'm squirting almond milk out of my chest, you know.
I saw it.
You saw it. That's like the way that idea was pitched by one of our. It was actually a female comedy writer, so it's okay, right? I'm sure you're like, women have a problem with this, right? The way she pitched it was like much more. Milk was coming out of everywhere. And but I love the idea of it because there is a magic in like what a mother is able to do to sustain the life of a child. It's incredible. Did you know that a baby's mouth and a mother's nipple actually have a symbiotic, like there's an exchange of bacteria that lets the mother know what nutrients the baby needs? This is true.
Gross.
Google it. And there's this, so to me, I found that to be magic. So I like that. That was like the kernel of like, this is really great. Let's make it not gross, and we got a winner. And I hope it wasn't gross, was it?
No, it was adorable.
It was a little adorable.
It was adorable.
Well, I wasn't going for adorable. It's supposed to be a little off-putting, but it's over quick. That's the good thing. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
It was a mix. It was adorable and off.
It was half and half.
Yeah, it was.
See, that was like a dad joke.
Yeah.
I'm a dad.
Or dad trick.
Dad tricks. Yes. That was.
I'm Amanda. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
As a magician, do people expect you to have a party trick when you show up at a party? And if so, do you always have to have one prepared?
I used to never leave the house without a deck of cards on me because and business cards, like when I was hustling, especially in college. Like I used to do kids' birthday parties. That was my thing. So I didn't go by Justin Willman then. I was Just Incredible. That was my stage name. Just Incredible. So, and you're trying to drum up gigs all the time. So like I could end up booking a couple gigs if I did a trick at that party. And then once, I wasn't doing those kinds of, things anymore, I kind of like to have my, here's when I'm on, I'm here performing, and then out in the real world, I can be off, because if I have to switch from just out being social, relaxed, chill, real life Justin, into like, okay, I gotta do a trick now, gotta put on a performance, it kind of takes you out of your chill, your vibe. So I don't always, now I kind of tend to not show up unless I have an inkling that I'm going to be put on the spot, because there's nothing like being put on the spot and then being like, I have nothing, I don't have my things with me.
Do you get invited to less parties?
Well, as a new dad, you just go to less parties.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Thanks, Imagine.
So we watch your show. We don't know how you do your tricks.
You look so familiar.
I know. I'm sorry for double dipping, but it's a different.
I'm glad you did.
Different concept. So we watch your show. We don't know how you do your tricks, but my question is: do you watch other magicians and try and? Are there any tricks that you don't know how to do that you watch other people do? And as someone at the top of the magician field? You know, do you share tricks with other magicians, or you know, how collaborative is that?
Yeah, it's luckily not as like cutthroat as The Prestige makes it out to be, you know, where it's, you know, there's murder and espionage involved. I love watching other magicians and being fooled. I love being fooled. Because as a kid, seeing magic and being fooled is what, you know, made me want to be a magician. And then unfortunately, you kind of then learn all the tricks of the trade, and then therefore you like less frequently get to experience what made you want to do that thing in the first place, which is sad. So Penn and Teller fool me all the time. You know, Shin Lim is really amazing. You know, Mac King is a great Vegas magician. There's so many great people who I can turn off my magician brain and just watch it like a real person, and to me that's really exciting. And then, you know, maybe later that night I then think like, okay, how the hell did they do that? Let me, you know, or you often will come up with a way how you think they did it, which isn't how they did it, but could work, you know, like it's a different method, and that's kind of a fun part of the creative process. Magicians are very willing to share, I think in certain circles, you know, in terms of secrets and tricks of the trade. There are certain things though that they know like, all right, this is a trick that is fooling everybody. And if they know how this works, this makes this trick less special because they're gonna start doing it. So some people guard those secrets a little bit better. I find like with the show, magicians who like didn't work on it, who just saw it and things that fool them, they kind of don't even want to ask. Like that, I think that's the sign of, hopefully, a well-evolved magician, is that you want to preserve the things that fool you. Watching Penn and Teller fool us, I think you kind of can get that Penn and Teller kind of love when they love being angrily fooled, you know, because they know too much. That Teller is a very smart man.
So sometimes you do believe in magic.
Son.
No?
What was the face we said was fake, real magic? Yeah. No, sometimes I like to feel the feeling of believing in the magic, you know. I've never seen somebody and been like, oh, there's no magic here. This is witchcraft. But
That's how I feel when I watch you.
well, that's good. That's good. You're a muggle. You're supposed to feel that way.
True.
I'm Allie. I was at your show in December. I'm not stopping.
Hi, Allie.
I actually had a non-magic question. I really enjoy the videos you do with your wife, the drunk history ones.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about how those came to be, like what
Oh,
you said,
fun.
you put the effort in, and I liked the follow-up about your baby's birth.
Yeah, thank you. We, my wife Jill and I, when we got married 4.5 years ago, we knew, because from going to weddings, being the guest, you know, you see the couple get bombarded with all these questions from in-laws they haven't seen in a while, always like, so how did you guys meet? And it's like, I don't want to tell this story all night. So we thought, let's shoot a drunk history spoof where we get hammered, tell the story of how we met, show it at the rehearsal dinner, and then we don't have to small talk about it. We don't have to talk to our relatives at all. And we had, you know, my buddy Adam Franklin, who directed Magic for Humans, he kind of slummed it and directed this, and we had a bunch of my actor buddies reenact it, and it kind of ended up being a little viral thing on our honeymoon, which is super fun. Shout out, thank you, YouTube. They're not here, are they here? Or the YouTube, is there commingling?
Oh yeah,
It's
I
all
work at YouTube.
Under the same roof? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, good. Here we are. We're
Here
here.
we
We're
are.
doing it. It's like magic and comedy intertwining.
Yeah.
And we kind of didn't even know we were going to put it online because it was something fun to show for our guests. But that then got my wife and I jazzed once our son was born, which was a very tumultuous birth story. He came a month early. I was in Hartford. She was in LA. When she's going into labor, I have to try to get back there in time. I did, barely, spoiler, long story. But
You did a trick.
you don't want to be in Hartford most of the time anyway, but let alone the morning that your wife goes in labor. And so we shot another one, a follow-up, that is on the Instagram and the Twitter. And I think I'm going to put a censored one up on YouTube after I meet somebody and they expose the algorithm for the recommended page, just to kind of, you know.
See what we can do.
Okay, good.
Hey, Justin. John Michael.
What's up, man?
Thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy this show a lot. I also happened to notice you were a guest on Nailed It, and I was curious just to hear about your experience on that, and if you could try to go back on again, because that was really cool.
You watch Nailed It? You know what it is? Do you? Okay. So Nailed It is a Netflix kind of baking dessert show.
That's what I thought.
But you don't have like pro level chefs. They're just like they're ordinary people like us, who suck.
Like if I was doing magic.
Like if you exactly. And they often suck, and it's funny. And Nicole Byer, who's hilarious, is the host. So that was a blast, but also it was kind of a cathartic experience because for 9 seasons I hosted Cupcake Wars on the Food Network. Okay, big fans here. This is great. And so, which is, I think, to me, when I watch Nailed It, I think this is all the things I wish I could have said on Cupcake Wars, but couldn't. Like it's a spoof of that. So it was nice to finally make the jokes and experience the tongue-in-cheek version of the show that I was a prisoner to for a long time, but was very good to me. Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of cupcake?
Peanut butter or chocolate. I don't know. I'm a savory. If I can get some savory in there, I'm good. Not peanut butter. What's your favorite kind?
I just like a regular birthday cake chocolate with
Funfetti?
Yeah, I love.
Oh wow.
I like sweet. Very sweet. Sorry, we got distracted. Next question.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So sidebar to my question, the CEO of YouTube is a Susan.
Oh.
I take back everything I said. But am I right about my generalization? Does she pay you guys with checks?
No comment. So I was just wondering, you mentioned it earlier, but did you go through a starving magician phase? Like did you have a talk with your parents where hey, I'm going to be a professional magician? And were they have you thought about law school? Or you kind of the whole way through just following the dream?
Well, when I was in high school, I was kind of one of those I'm young entrepreneur, I'm 15, don't even have a car yet, but I've got a briefcase and the business cards and stuff. So my parents were very supportive of that. And then once it was near the end of high school and they're wow, he's still really into this. There was a talk of Justin, that we think you should get a college degree, even though this magic thing seems to be going well. So so that was always kind of the urging. So I went to Emerson College in Boston and got a degree in broadcast journalism because I was maybe I'll be, if magic fails, I'll be a funny weatherman or something. And luckily it worked out. But that ended up being good training for reading a teleprompter on Cupcake Wars in slavery for 9 years. Yes. You know how many times I had to count backwards from 10 on Cupcake Wars?
Wow, but does that help at all with Magic for Humans?
No.
Do you ever have to count backwards?
Never.
Never?
No, only forwards.
Only
1,
forward.
2, 3. But baking, it's 10, 9, 8. The starving part, when I went to college, I think it was once I graduated college, I moved to LA, and Just Incredible was out in LA, and there's not the college structure. There's a lot of things in LA to distract you from success, and just I'm sure in New York, you kind of just, I'm in New York, and you kind of really veer off the path that you came there for in the first place. So I think keeping my drive and kind of ambition on track faltered for a few years, and there were times where I did think about maybe moving back to St. Louis and maybe getting a real job or whatever, maybe I'll be a weatherman, and managed to stick that out. My parents were always very, very supportive, but my dad was always supportive yet fiscally skeptical about whether or not I was making the right moves, and now he's good. Now that season 3 happening, he thinks this magic thing's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Last question.
Yeah. My dad still asks me what channel Netflix is on. If that tells you about my parents at all.
Hey Justin, I'm Alex. I saw you in Times Square a year and a half ago, and someone heckled you, and you did well with it and everything. I guess my question is, are the heck...
Was I performing in a venue or was I just roaming the streets? Was I in Times Square, on the sidewalk at Caroline's?
Yeah.
Okay.
My question is, are the hecklers in magic different than the hecklers in comedy, and was there a difference in getting used to the second one?
Do you remember what they heckled or what they said?
I think it was something about getting with you, or they were very graphic. Yeah.
That sounds like an Obama heckle. It's kind of an encouraging heckle.
Yeah.
There's not as many hecklers as with a comedian, I think, just because I think comedy is naturally a little more feather ruffling, a little more antagonistic, which kind of, it kind of is meant to present itself as a conversation between me and you and the audience, but it's an unspoken rule that you're not supposed to respond, you know, but often people are drunk and they forget that, so there's a lot of heckling. With magic, I feel like I get less heckles, or it's at least more frowned upon. Very rare, you'd think magic hecklers would be like, it's up your sleeve, you know? But I find people are a little more respectful. Sometimes I have to I kind of like a little bit of, just a little, you know, I don't want the audience to be quiet and polite. Like I like, if it's not laughs I'm going for, I like a little bit of a rowdiness, a little combativeness. So sometimes I try to actually encourage friendly heckling, you know, the best I can. Like if you, about the first kiss stuff, if you were kind of like reluctant, you know, like you gave it up too easy. You gave me her first and last name, but I would love it if he's like, I'm not gonna give it to you. Yeah, you are. Come on. And then we would insult one another, and it would have been a weird start, but you would have remembered it, you know. So for the most part, people are polite, yet too polite occasionally. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Nice sweater, by the way. I was about to wear that exact same sweater. I'm glad I didn't.
Well, I want to leave everyone on this note. I think one of the things you said in the show that really resonated with me is that it doesn't matter if what you see is fake as long as the way it makes you feel is real. And I wanted to know if that's what you think the secret to magic is.
Yeah, I'm glad that, I like that quote. Out of complete context, it's, you know, like there are more serious implications when something is fake or information is, you know. But I think in terms of like magic.
I was talking in the magic.
Okay, good.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. The headline, the clickbait is like, Google Rap says it doesn't matter if it's fake. As long as the news makes you feel good. I think magic is about suspending the disbelief willingly. I think the people who enjoy magic the most are people who are intelligent. It's not about trying to like trick you or make you feel dumb, fool you. I think the willing suspension of disbelief that happens with magic or with professional wrestling or at a play or at a movie, I think it is like a pure, wonderful thing. And I think magic, especially when you're seeing it in person, like it is a rare chance where, you know, the rules of the universe get, you know, changed for a moment. You kind of feel like a kid again, like the what, how, you know, is something that we don't feel every day because we kind of live in an age where we can have all of our answers in front of us. So I think it is a beautiful little feeling that you can give people, and I love doing that, and I love getting that. But for me, it's kind of my favorite pastime that I've been able to make a career out of.
Well, it has been truly magical having you here. Season 2 of Magic for Humans is available on Netflix. Go and check it out.
Yeah.
And let's give Justin a big round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming.